having about animals working on Shabbat. As you know, your animal can't work on Shabbat. And we were talking about if there is certain extra protection on the animal that's not necessary. The animal only requires a certain amount of protection, and you went ahead and you put a higher level of protection. Would that be considered carrying on the Shabbat or not? So that was the discussion. The Gemara had concluded if it's not doing the trick, then if it's not doing the trick, meaning if you have a low level shmira, a low level watch that's not sufficient, that would be considered carrying. So here now the Gemara wanted now let's see what we're up to in the Gemara. Meitive. We are on 52A. 52A, 52A2, Meitive. The Gemara is now questioning Rav's opinion that if you put something on and it's restrained, oh, look who's here. Good to see you, Richie. Boker Tov. If you, Boker Tov, thank you. Just presume if you didn't say Birkat HaTorah yet, you should say Birkat HaTorah before the. Okay. So, welcome. We are discussing if you have excessive. Rav's opinion is that if you put something on the animal to hold the animal more than it needed, that will be considered a masa, a load. Adam, if you want to fix it, that's how the screen should be. Kosher ba'aleh b'mosera. Now we're talking about the paraduma, which is how do you want? Should I be similar the picture of my picture?
Oh, you mean same size?
Yeah. So kosher ba'aleh b'mosera. We just leave it. Leave it later. Fine. If let's paraduma, we just had about the paraduma not so long ago. The paraduma is not allowed to do any amount of work. The Torah says that it has to be an animal that did not pull a yoke, not have a yoke around its neck, plowing, so on and so forth. Kosher ba'aleha b'mosera. If the owner of the paraduma tied a leash to it, now the cow we said does not need a leash. A cow is a type of tame animal. When you take it to place, you could go in front of the animal and direct it when necessary. So a strap for a cow, we have a more right over there because Mark's going to be coming. That's Mark's seat. That's what I'm saying. Mark Adri's coming. And then yes, that's what the.
I can take it. I'll sit somewhere else.
Okay, so he said Mark Richie could take it. Yeah. Okay. So we're discussing, just to bring Richie up to date, we're discussing your animal. Your animal has to rest on. You can't work your animal on Shabbat. Your animal can't work on Shabbat. Your animal, the same way you can't carry from private property to public property, your animal can't carry from private property to public property on Shabbat. Very good. And right, your slaves. If you have slaves, the Torah says your slaves can't work on Shabbat as well. And a paraduma, and there's a machloket, there's a dispute in the Gemara. If you put something,
how do housekeepers work on Shabbat in Sephardic communities? How do the housekeepers work on Shabbat in Sephardic communities?
Right. So first of all, they're not your slave. So the Torah's prohibition is number one is your slave can't work.
Right.
They're not your slave. Now,
right.
The housekeeper, your housekeeper, just like any guy, a guy can't do work for you on Shabbat. Whatever you can't do, you can't tell them to do, right? So I can't tell my non-Jewish person to
do my laundry,
to mow my lawn on Shabbat. I can't tell them I can't mow my lawn. I can't tell them no. The only thing the housekeeper is allowed to do for you is generally things that you could do for yourself. You could clean around the house. She could clean around the house, right? If she wants to do something to make it easier for herself, let's say she wants to use the hot water and you don't use hot water to clean the dishes, but she wants to use hot water to clean dishes because it makes it easier for herself. That's not, you didn't ask her to do it. She didn't have to do that. She didn't have to use the hot water. So, you can't have your cleaning lady do things for you that you can't do. I think that's the answer regarding the cleaning lady. Now, how you pay her, there's halachas how, best to, just not to pay her just for the Saturday day, how you pay her by the week, you pay her in a certain way. Havlas, which she says, so there's ways of how you pay her. But if she's not, and it's not a slave, and therefore then it gets into a rabbinic issue of a guy doing work for you on Shabbat. And therefore, you have to. That would be the answer. I can't have I can't ask my cleaning lady. I want you to build something for me on Shabbat. That would be rabbinically prohibited. It's a rabbinic prohibition. I can't build. They can't build something for me on Shabbat.
They can't what?
I'm saying I'm giving you a far example. Let's say I have a man who does work around the house. He does. I can't ask him to build for me something on Shabbat. Or fix something on Shabbat, fix the door for me on Shabbat, nail it in.
But obviously, if you tell him fix it anytime you want and he does it in Shabbat, it's not your problem.
It depends, Mark. What would it depend on? Therefore, it would depend if it's something, morning, Simon, if it's something that people might think that you hired him for the day to do, meaning that'll be a marat ayin, meaning there's
right. Yeah.
That sometimes if he looks like a day worker, and he's doing his thing, so maybe that might be a problem. Marat ayin. There's two possible issues with a guy doing work for you on Shabbat. One is that if he does work, if you hire him to do work on Shabbat, that would be a problem. But you're saying I didn't say that he's doing Shabbat. I said he could do it any time. So then the issue over there would be of how does it look? Is it a type of work that's that people might think that you're hiring him for the day or not?
Got it.
Okay, so the Gemara says we are on 52A2, Simon. 52A2, first column, bottom of the page. Meitive, kosher ba'aleh b'mosera. The owner of the paraduma, that red heifer, that's a very rare cow that you can find. He tied it with a leash, and then it went out. And let's say and the animal had its leash on it, which is excessive. It didn't need to have this leash on it. Now, and went out with the leash. Let's say it went outside with the leash, and now the question is that called you put a load on the animal, a burden, something unnecessary on the animal? So according to Rav, who said that if you put something extra on the animal that's not necessary and it goes out to public property, it's considered a malacha, it's considered carrying. So what happens with this paraduma? So we say that the paraduma is still kashera, even though you have something extra on the animal. So it would be considered, you would think maybe it's a burden.
Make one, miss one, whatever.
Nevertheless, if you put a yoke on the animal, we say a yoke, the Torah, that would have valid.
Good morning, guys.
That's a pasuk. But really, it would seem to be you would think any type of work, if it's considered a load, if the Torah, now, when it comes to Shabbat, the Torah considers carrying something from private to public domain a malacha. You put a tissue in your pocket, in a place where there's no eruv, you have now done an act of malacha. This is of the 39 malachot. This is of the 39 acts of labor. This is the hardest to people to wrap their head. This is called you did an act of labor by carrying something, by transporting something from private to public, even if it's not a heavy weight, even if it's keys in a pocket in a place, right? So this animal, right? Look who's here. It's the Ajmi. We want more Ajmis to come to the class. Let's get some more Ajmis. Morning. So I'm in after davening last week. So we'll take before or after. Okay, so it says that the animal the animal is still kosher. So the Gemara says, if you think we're 52A2, if you think it's a load, if you think it's a load, so why is it kosher? Why is this paraduma kosher? We should say, and the Torah says, Asher lo, as Richard quoted the pasuk, Asher lo olel olam rachmana. Torah says that the yoke cannot go on the animal.
But what are we dealing with here? Animal is pasul or not?
If the
Or dealing with Halal Shabbat.
Right,
Which
very-
one are we dealing with?
But
Two things.
both exactly. Both. You're dealing with both. Our Gemara was talking about Chilul Shabbat, of desecrating Shabbat. Are you violating the prohibition that you have the animal has to rest if the animal goes out from private to public with an excessive restraint that's not necessary? And the Gemara wants to answer that question. We have a great machloket, a great dispute between rabbis if an excessive restraint would be considered carrying for an animal on Shabbat. The animal carried a load. And now we want to use paraduma to prove who's right, to prove as a question or a proof to one of the opinions. The paraduma, the Gemara says, is now going to be a proof or a challenge to Rav's opinion. That Rav, who says that an excessive restraint is considered a burden, considered a load, considered carrying, considered a masa is to carry.
And it's in the Halal Shabbat.
That is Mechalel Shabbat. So therefore, we're going to see, for the animal. Therefore, we're going to see that by paraduma, it's not considered. We see it's not an excessive restraint, and therefore we see an extra something that's not necessary. The cow doesn't need a leash around its neck. The cow is a very very tame domesticated animal, and if you put it right, it's right.
It's a mu'ad.
Very good. So that the Gemara is going to say one of Richie's answers that maybe it's a rebellious animal, therefore maybe it's not considered excessive. But the language of the Braita, it says it doesn't say that it was a rebellious animal. So the Gemara is thinking it's a regular, normal paraduma, and
To be clear, he's attaching this leaf on Shabbat or before Shabbat?
okay,
Because that's a big question.
Right.
I put it Friday afternoon and leave it on.
right. So even if he did it before Shabbat. If he did it before Shabbat, it would still be, if it's considered excessive, it's
Then it would be
restraint
Halal.
in Mechalel Shabbat, right?
Yeah.
Carry. So the Gemara says, if you think excessive restraint is a load, so the Torah says it can't do work, and therefore there seems to be a question from this Braita that seems that excessive restraint is not considered carrying, it's not considered a load. Now, Amar Abaye says that you can answer this Braita, but malicha me'ir le'ir. When you're taking the cow from one city to another city, meaning when you're keeping the cow in its neighborhood, its normal habitat, the animals relax.
By a bird.
Very good. Is it carrying? Is it considered carrying when you?
Burden.
Right. The word burden is on Shabbat. There's something I can't burden. It equals carrying. I mean, what does that mean? If the animal is an act of work, act of labor. When a person
Burden on the person
on the,
putting it on.
no,
On the animal.
no, the animal's doing an act of work.
Burden on the animal on behalf of
Me, right, exactly. Right, meaning the idea of an animal carrying something, right?
Only
So-
that is valid only if it never carried a burden.
Right, that means, right, the Torah says about a paraduma, it's only valid if it didn't work a day in its life.
From any other labor.
Any type of labor, work, so I'll call it work, right? So I mean, if the paraduma did one act of work in its life, it can't be part. It can't have a blemish and it can't work. Right, two independent, right. It can't work one day in its life. And Rav David Feinstein, I like to say what he said. Rav Dov Feinstein said in one of the classes, he said, the animal that you got to slaughter and burn and use to purify something is an animal that never had a burden in its life. It's red. Red is a symbol of sin. But another symbol, and that's what you got to get rid of. You got to burn. But another symbol of sin is when you don't work a day in your life, you don't take any responsibility. That's where sin comes from. So that's what we got to get rid of. Being idle and
right. If this leash obviously is not work.
Exactly. That's the Gemara's question. Right. And then the Gemara wants a proof from this Breita that it's not considered, even though it's an excessive restraint.
And taking it further, if it's not a burden considered, then it's not Shabbat.
Right, exactly. So the Gemara says, Abaye says, listen, the case of the Breita is when you take it's with Malicha Meir Le'ir, when you took it from one city to another city. So the animal is not as comfortable when it leaves its normal. There's you have stories that animals come back to its place, right. With the treasures on its back. It's normal. It goes where it's comes back. So if you take the cow outside the city, it doesn't want to go. So a lot of times it's hesitant to go. So therefore you need it's not considered excessive restraint. That's the normal thing for the animal. Just like if you put clothing on the animal, it's not that it needs, it's not considered a labor. You're not carrying clothing when you're walking outside of Shabbat wearing clothing. That's not called malacha, an act of work. That's part of you. That's what the Gemara wants to say. Malicha me'ir le'ir, went from city to city. Rava says, "Tiny para de domeh yukarim." You know what? The average cow is considered an excessive restraint, but when you're dealing with $1 million cow, that's not called excessive. You protect it. That's normal to protect the para duma. This cow gets lost. If you don't hold it in, rein it in. So therefore, it's very expensive, and therefore it's not considered excessive. You had a famous Gemara in Kedushin, where the Gemara says where the rabbis came to a certain non-Jew who done benetina that a paraduma was born in his flock. He says, I know you would give me all the money in the world for this, so to speak, but I only want the money to make up for the loss that I didn't wake up my father. He didn't wake up his father to get the keys to the chest to sell the precious stone. Just give me that profit that I lost. That's all. But I know you would give everything. Jews would be willing to give everything because they want to get that paraduma. Ravina Amar, what Richie said earlier. Meredet, what he suggested. We're calling it a rebellious para. Because a rebellious para, if it's wild, that's what we're talking about. If you went ahead and you wrapped this strainer on it, this leash on it, that's not called a load. For the average para, that would be considered maybe a load, average cow, because it's excessive.
Now it's yielding away from the paraduma question, because how could a paraduma be more odd? So it's more general here, saying if you have a wild cow and you want to move from here to here, you could put a halter on it.
It's not called excessive. It's not considered excessive, and therefore it's not considered that the animal worked the day in its life. It wasn't anything extra. Okay, so the Gemara continues. Hatsus Yosei Bashir. It says about the horse goes out with the shear. With the shear, the way Rashi explained, it's like some sort of necklace, something around its neck, and there is a ring that's around this necklace. Inside this necklace, you have a ring, and you put a strap to pull it. So we have that's this, and obviously the reason why you have a ring, a lot of times you have this ring. It's definitely a heavier security. Pull it stronger than you have a ring tighter. You have again. I have like a nice picture over here. But imagine you have the neck of the animal, and then let's say you have like a little ring, and then you have a string. You have a string put out. So the Mishnah said you could go ahead and pull it. The animal could go out with that on Shabbat. So it says two things in the Mishnah. it goes out with it, and it's pulled with it. What is it? What is the meaning of going out and being pulled?
You're going out is again the money time. Someone sees it on, that may mean that you're working on Shabbat. What would
Okay,
be the
okay,
problem
okay,
with going
okay,
out?
okay, very good. So what's the issue over here? It says it's the language of the Mishnah. The way Rashi explains the Mishnah.
The college, apparently says the words maybe pull are apparently
Unnecessary, right? Because if if the whole purpose, one area, because if the whole allowance of an animal going out with Shabbat with this shear is only because you want it for protective purposes, so certainly you have to pull it. So just tell me, great to see you back. Great, just tell me that the animal could go out with it. Because what's the purpose why you're putting this on the animal?
Jewelry.
So is it right? That's the question. Is it are you able to go out with it just if you wrap it around its neck and it's not being able to be pulled as a leash? Would that be considered proper adornment, the beautification of jewelry for the animal? And normal type of jewelry for an animal, if it's normal to adorn an animal in such a fashion, that it's not a problem. Just like a human being that wears a necklace, it's not called you carried on Shabbat when you went out from private to public where there's no eruv. So is that the meaning of the Mishnah, that there's two halachot here, that two situations, that the horse could go out with, and also not only horse, an animal that it's common to put these things around its neck to pull it, it can be used both either yotzim b'shir, it could go out with it as a piece of jewelry, or v'nim shachem b'shir, or you could use it as multi-purpose, or you could pull it, or the Mishnah only means pulling, but not if you wrap it tight around the neck, and it can only be used if you have no piece of the leash coming out, right? If you wrap the leash around its neck that there's no part that you could pull from, right, Simon, then it's only as an adornment, and maybe that's called carrying. That's not the norm for the animal. So that's ma yotzim u'ma nimshachim. What does it mean? It goes out and it's pulled. Amar Rav Huna. Now Rav Huna says, "O yotzim kruchim o nimshachim." Rav Huna says there's no extra word in the Mishnah, and Rav Huna says the Mishnah is telling you two halachot. You could do either one. You could either wrap it like kricha. What do we have on Pesach? Korech, the sandwich. What's the sandwich? You wrap the maror in the matzah. You could wrap the leash all the way around its neck, and that's considered makes the animal look good. It's good enough. The animal looks good. It's not called excessive carrying.
Either way, it's okay.
Either way, it's okay. Even if you wrapped it.
That's why they're saying both.
Both, right. Even if you wrapped it in a way, you didn't leave a little piece coming forward.
One for just
Beautification. That's what the Gemara said. However, Shmuel Lama, no, he doesn't buy it. Shmuel Lama, yotzim nimshachim ve'ein yotzim kruchim. Shmuel says no. You can only go with this leash, with this collar around the neck of these animals only if it's actually a piece of the leash is hanging down and you could pull it. But if you wrapped it tight around its neck and there's no way to get your hand in there to hold the animal, so to restrain it, then that's called excessive. That's not serving a purpose. That would be adornment, and he says this is not the normal adornment for the animal, and this is carrying on Shabbat. Just like if a person goes ahead, takes a key, right? And they take, I see sometimes an old lady in the Lower East Side. They take
that 2 minutes ago.
They take a little.
Have a magnet, put it on their belt.
Right. So in the Lower East Side where we don't carry, so we take a key. We make a tie clip, tie clip. It has a purpose. Use a purpose. Or we go ahead and we use it like I told you from the middle. Right, I told you about. But we use it as the key that's a Shabbat belt, but the key becomes this pin because it's a key. We use it as a key, or the key actually ties You have two parts of the belt. You have the belt that's the strap, and the key. The hooks. There's like things that you hook clicks it in. So it has a purpose. But then I see some old ladies. You know, they're wearing the key like as if it's a necklace around their neck. But it's not a necklace. Something that some women they do is make a nice gold-plated pin out of a key. To make it, these are some of the things we do on the Lower East Side, and so it makes it look good. But to wear it, put the key on a string, Ariel, around. It's nothing because it's.
But if you don't record, expensive gold chain.
But okay, if it would look if maybe the chain is an adornment. If you put a key on a gold chain, if the key is serving some sort of purpose, if you beautify it. But
You think the finish on the necklace is not?
yes, I mean, you have to see about how they gold plate that pin, how they do. We have to see about that pin that they do it. But that they're carrying that's another way of carrying a key.
Back to that.
So back to the animal. So
It's tight.
if it's tight around the animal, you can't pull it, and it's not an adornment because it's not and you can't pull it. Why it's not an adornment? Because that's not the way you beautify. It's not considered enough of a beautification. That's not the way you beautify an animal. Is by taking a leash and putting it around its neck. Usually that leash is used more to pull.
If it's something that has the leash attached to it, like you describe the horse as a ring. They usually put like a leather strap over and it has two things hanging when they pull it. So that's clearly.
That's needed for the animal, but that's not called carrying. Right? That's what the Gemara say.
What if it's an item that attached and it's never taken? Doesn't go on and off on it, it's on. From Shabbat to Shabbat, from year to year.
What
You're saying it's tight and
I'm
it's
saying
not a
it's
dog.
kavua, it's something that.
for person? You
No.
animal? What animal?
In other words, I'm trying to come up with a different understanding, but the way we're reading it, it's being taken off and then.
No. If it has no beautification purposes. And it's not to restrain the animal.
What if it's
Now you're saying, what if it does none of those?
It's a siman.
What if?
The guy's worried, the animal runs away.
Rich,
That's a siman that belongs to Rabbi Yehuda. I don't know.
so you're saying if it doesn't have either one of those qualifications, it's not for restraining.
And it's not a
for
normal.
beautification, and it's on all the time.
Exactly.
That's his question.
And it doesn't, and it's the name, it's a siman. That everyone knows that this red
If it
collar
gets
belongs
lost,
to this
bring
house
it to that.
and the blue belongs to that house. It's very different.
Right, we see people
I don't wanna
do.
lose my.
Right. People do in there. They stitch in a name on a tag. But I think that maybe it's not. Maybe when it could be when something's a norm, it becomes part of the thing. It's like you have a shirt and you have your name. You have a name on it. But wrapping a thing around the neck is not really serving any. Doesn't seem to. It doesn't. It's not serving as a leash. It's not.
What is the purpose of bothering to wrap this?
Oh, very good.
Serves no purpose.
Right. So it could. Right.
These rabbis are not wasting time.
Right. So it could be that maybe this person might feel listen, maybe this is my type of beautification of the this makes the animal look better.
And it goes to beautification.
But it has to be common beautification, meaning
You're saying the horse without it's too tight, there's no thing on it, it's not considered beautification.
it's not considered if it's too tight, right?
Then his question is, why is anyone putting that on? I
Right.
can't use it, it's not restraining and it's not beautiful.
purpose?
Why am I putting this on my animal?
Right. So
Then it would be.
That's it.
So I said it could be that you might do it that way, but that's not. Let's say you do something which is not the normal way of adornment. Is that considered? I mean, if you wear something, I think this is jewelry. I'm going to wear this.
Like the key on my neck.
I keep my necklace. It's
nice.
That's nice. It looks nice, but
Make that up.
maybe I don't think that maybe you can't do that. That doesn't work. I'm saying it looks nice. The styles today. Right, Simon? The styles that everyone makes a style. Maybe that would be considered.
think it's gotta be something that's.
That's common, it's a common, that's.
You might have a minhag makom where someone does something outlandish, that's a different story.
Right, because I think the Ritva says if something that's normal adornment, that would be fine. But this is not.
Normal to who? Big question.
Right. Normal in society. What's considered normal.
Okay.
Um,
I'm sorry we're making.
no, it's very good.
If the neck looks, make it look nice,
And it's
Yeah.
normal.
the animal, or if it's to restrain it and to make it, you could do it. But if you just put something on the animal for the purpose of carrying, it's like you carry. Animal can't carry for you.
Right, the point that Ariel, the animal can't
Net-
carry
net
for you on
animal
Shabbat.
Can't carry for you.
The same way, I'm sorry, I didn't give you a proper intro.
To catch up.
Yeah, forgive me, Ariel. We're talking, just to give you a little background, we're talking on Shabbat. You can't do work on Shabbat. Your animal can't do work for you. You can't do work. You can't have your animal plow on Shabbat. You can't have your animal carry. The chidush is, even we have to always remember that carrying from private to public is considered an act of work. It's one of the 39 malachot. It's called a malacha. It's the hardest one of the malachot. That's why some want to say, mean hard to wrap your, we're talking about wrapping around, wrap your head around it. That's called doing work. You like that? Right? It's called working when you carry something in your pocket from private to public on Shabbat where there's no eruv. So the same way you can't carry from private, your animal can't carry from private to public on Shabbat. And we're discussing here in the Gemara what's called carrying, what's called carrying. If you have something around the neck of the animal, that's there for you to pull the animal. That's not called carrying. If it's more than what's needed, that's a discussion. Is that called carrying? Excessive restraint, is that called carrying? And here we're talking about if you have this type of thing that they put around the animal's some sort of collar around the animal's neck. Would you be that if you wrap it around that you can't pull it, or you wrap it tight? Is that called carrying? Because it's not being used. You can't pull the animal in because you wrapped it tight around. You didn't leave any piece of the strap to pull it with. And now the only possibility that's not called carrying is because maybe it makes the horse looks nice or the other animals look nice. There's something wrapped around its neck. We wear scarves. So now, is this considered like a scarf? Now we wear scarves more for protection purposes, but is this considered around the neck of the animal? Is it considered beautification purposes? Yeah, is that considered like to adorn, make the animal look nice? It becomes part of the animal. That's the question of the Gemara. Tana, the Gemara says we have a Braita, Yotzin Kruchin Moshech. The Braita says that when these animals have this collar around it, it's only if you're using it to pull the animal. But if you're going to go ahead and wrap it around the animal in a way that it's not going to be pulling the animal because you didn't leave any space of the strap coming out, you tighten it around the neck of the animal, that's considered a malacha. The animal it's considered like a load. Now, Amar Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yosef says, I saw the calves, the young cows of Rav Huna, Yotzin b'afsarehem kruchim b'Shabbat. He actually followed his opinion, his lenient opinion, that they went out on Shabbat with it wrapped around its neck. There was no way to pull it, and they held that it's called an adornment, and it's considered enough of a common way to beautify the animal, even though it's not going to be used it's not used to restrain the animal. It's used to make the animal look nice, and he held it reached the bar of normalcy of looking nice, of an adornment, and therefore his animals went out on Shabbat, his calves went out on Shabbat with it wrapped around its neck, tightly wrapped around, and he even went from private to public. He had no problem because he held it's enough of an adornment, and therefore it's not a problem. We want to thank everybody for coming. Everybody adorns the class by coming. How do you like that? All the best. Everybody beautifies the class. Ariel and Richie, welcome back.
Yeah, I know carrying if it's an enclosed, if there's an.
Right, so enclosed, it shouldn't be a problem. It's not called malacha.
You can.
Right. It's not called, exactly, it's not called work.
That's why he said.
It's part of the animal. It's part of the animal.
Hold on.
Right.
Keep it from biting him, keep it from running away.
It's not called carry. It's part of the animal. Upstairs.
Okay. Thank you, Rabbi.